Breaking update coming in, and in the Mumbai cruise drugs case, the NCB, the Narcotics Control Bureau, has in fact submitted its charge sheet. 6,000-page charge sheet has been submitted in court, and the biggest takeaway from it is that clean chit has been given to Aryan Khan as per sources in this particular charge sheet. Let me go across to my colleague Shweta for more on this. Shweta, what do we know?
Indeed, very significant development as far as Aryan Khan cruise case is concerned. And now we have seen just a short while back, NCB submitted 6,000 pages of charge sheet, and very importantly, it is emerging out that the clean chit has been provided due to lack of sufficient evidence. And when the SIT was formed, in fact, remember when this entire case emerged out, the special investigation team, in fact, carried out its investigation in very objective manner. This is what we have been learning, and now we are seeing that there were the complainant, in fact, against 14 people under various sections of NDPS Act, which was filed. But now, complainant against rest of the 6 persons, which includes Aryan Khan, son of SRK, is also being clean chit given on the pages of that due to lack of sufficient evidence. So this is significant development as far as Aryan Khan's NCB case is concerned. We have seen SIT was duly formed after there was a row between NCB and NCP. That was a time when the matter escalated, and Nawab Malik also, there were certain allegations which were seriously put up to the officers of NCP in Mumbai zone. But now what we are also learning, after filing charge sheet of 6,000 pages, which is of 10 volumes, it has come to the notice that son of Shah Rukh Khan, Aryan Khan, after spending time in jail, he has been given clean chit as per the note what we have got from the Narcotics Control Bureau, stating that due to lack of sufficient evidence, Aryan Khan, including 5 others, have been given clean chit on the ground. Back to you.
Shweta, just one more question. So basically the important point to highlight over here is NCB saying there's lack of sufficient evidence. Am I right? Is that what has been the main takeaway from this particular charge sheet?
Indeed, this can be drawn out as an objective of what we have learned so far from Narcotics Control Bureau press note is that they have carried out their investigation in a very objective manner. Remember, the entire special investigation team was formed where all these 20 people were accused. 14 were also sent to jail, which included Aryan Khan. And now what we are also learning, these 6 people are out as clean chit as due to lack of sufficient evidence. This is what even Narcotics Control Bureau has to say while they have filed their charge sheet, 6,000 pages charge sheet. There should have been enough of evidence. But now what we are also learning at the same time is, very importantly, Aryan Khan, the limelight of this entire Cordelia drug cruise case, he has been found given clean chit by the SIT, which was found in November 2021. So it has taken a long time after the investigation which they have carried, which was in fact done by NCB DDG Sanjay Singh at that moment, which was found in November 2021.
Right. This is, of course, the initial information which is trickling in on this 6,000-page charge sheet, which has been filed in the Mumbai cruise drugs case, in which, of course, one of the main accused in that case was Aryan Khan. But now what we can in fact see is that in the charge sheet that NCB has submitted, they have in fact said that due to lack of evidence, they have given a clean chit to Aryan Khan. There is not enough proof. That's what NCB has told the court. And these are preliminary information which is trickling in on this very high-profile case, the Mumbai cruise drugs case, in which Shah Rukh Khan's son, Aryan Khan, was involved, and he had in fact been arrested in that case, jailed for nearly a month in this particular case. And what we can in fact see now is that in its charge sheet, in its investigative report, which the agency has submitted to the court, they have given a clean chit to Aryan. Just to recap for our viewers, the story that we're bringing at this point in time. Clean chit to Aryan Khan in the Mumbai cruise drugs case. NCB has submitted its charge sheet in which it has said that there's not sufficient evidence to go ahead with any sort of with charging Aryan Khan in this particular case, which is why they have now given a clean chit to Aryan. That's the detail, the big takeaway that we have from this charge sheet so far. I'm also joined on the broadcast by my colleague Abhishek. Abhishek, what other details do we have as of now? This is a charge sheet which has been submitted in court. What are some of the main points that NCB has said to court in its charge sheet?
Yes, definitely it's an important update because remember when we earlier reported NCB has asked for an extension and a 90 days extension was granted to NCB to file the charge sheet, and today what we hear is NCB has filed the charge sheet, though the court has to take the cognizance of the charge sheet which is pending, but at the same time NCB has also issued a press note clearing all the air across Aryan Khan and clearly telling that there was no evidence as such which was required so that he could be charge sheeted. And definitely, as we also remember, the court orders that also clearly said while he was given bail at that point of time, it clearly said that it was a collective the contrabands and the other narcotic substances which were seized were a collective seizure. It was not an individual seizure, and NCB could not get any evidence as far as the contrabands or narcotic substances are concerned, particularly with Aryan Khan. It was made clear in the High Court order why the High Court has given the bail at the moment, and definitely which comes true when we come to know the charge sheet has been filed and a press release which has been issued by the Narcotics Control Bureau, which is clearly says that there were lack of evidence when it comes to charge sheet of Mr. Aryan Khan. And definitely as far as the other victims are concerned, they have been already charge sheeted and respective contrabands and the narcotic substance have been charge sheeted. Samples have been placed. So what it is very much clear and a big breaking news coming from the NCP's front is that the whole Cordelia Cruise case which we tracked from the start till now, and also we reported earlier right from every hearing where the bail was rejected and then the High Court granted bail to Mr. Aryan Khan, and till date definitely it was a collective seizure. There was no evidence when it comes to individual evidence as far as Aryan Khan is concerned was not found by NCB. What is very much clear right now, and definitely it's a big update and a clear clean chit to Aryan Khan, son of Shahrukh Khan, is what we're coming to know, and we will have to wait and watch for more details of the charge sheet. A huge charge sheet has been submitted in the Sessions Court now, and the court has to take the cognizance, but at the same time NCP has issued a press note clarifying the air that Aryan Khan, there was no evidence or lack of evidence against him which gives him a clear chit. At the moment what we can come to know, more details are yet to be awaited. We'll definitely keep a close eye and a close track on all the updates that are coming from the NCB, as well as the details of the charge sheet are yet to be ascertained. Back to you.
Abhishek, stay with us. I'm also joined on the phone line by Mr. Mahesh Tapase, NCP leader. Mr. Tapase, thank you so much for taking out your time to speak to us on this. But, we've seen Mr. Nawab Malik specifically from the NCP raising this issue constantly, poking holes on the NCB's investigation in this particular case. There were, of course, several other questions also which had been raised by Mr. Malik on this particular issue. What is your first reaction now?
Right from day one, we have maintained a stand that the entire Cordelia bust was all fake. Whatever recovery was there, whatever witnesses have been testified, so they were all fake. This is what we have been maintaining right from day one. And our leader, Mr. Nawab Malik, has been very vocal about the functioning of not only Samir Wankhede, but the entire NCB. Now that the NCB has given a clean chit to Aryan Khan, it is more than clear that the entire operation was a hoax. It was absolutely uncalled for. And NCP leader Nawab Malik had to pay a very huge price for battling it out and trying to expose the truth and the wrongdoings of Samir Wankhede. This has brought a big disrepute to the organization. NCB is a very, very credible organization. The Narcotics Control Bureau is a very credible organization of the country. It has really worked in a sense to bust drug racket, expose people in drug business. But this exposes, this what happened on the Cordelia cruise definitely become a blot, and there are black sheep in every organization. So now NCB should clear such people on its board and see to it that the public trust in government organization is restored again.
So, there have been several questions which have been raised. NCB has also conducted its own internal probe. The team entirely had been restructured, which was looking into this particular case. They had given it to another team, plus an internal probe was going on. So, a lot of questions have, in fact, been raised on NCB, specifically surrounding this particular case. If we look at this, this has become a focal point as far as, NCB is concerned and the functioning of it is concerned. Do you think this charge sheet also in one way, once again, bolsters that point? Because they had been very sure of it in the beginning. Of course, investigation stage continues and a lot can change between that and the charge sheet being submitted in court. But how do you interpret this? Considering there have been questions raised, NCB itself set up its own inquiry team on this, and now this charge sheet, which says not enough evidence.
After Nawab Malik taking the NCB and Sameer Wankhede head on, we saw the witnesses turning hostile. The witnesses came on camera and said that we were made to sign blank papers. There was also some communication regarding some monies that were to be delivered to some middlemen to, get the entire case wiped off. All this came in public domain, and hence we have maintained a stand that this entire operation, this entire raid it was all fake, and the way the raid was conducted is not as per the standard operating manual of the Narcotics Control Bureau. And even in the internal inquiry suggested that there have been lapses. So now it is up to the government agency to clear its stand, to get people of such character and background off its radar, and to restore the faith, instill faith and confidence in the public at large.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tapase, for joining us on this. Let me go back to my colleague Abhishek for more. Abhishek, just take our viewers through the kind of, ups and downs that this particular case has seen. If you can just recap for our viewers the kind of questions which have been raised throughout, and also reflecting both sides, what NCB had to say at that point in time, and also what the kind of criticism that they faced.
See, definitely, starting to highlight you the first, the bail that was given by the Bombay High Court. And while granting bail, Bombay High Court in its order clearly mentioned that it was a collective seizure and NCP could not give any proof that there was an individual personal seizure from Aryan Khan. And, it was very clear at that moment because of which he was granted bail. And as far as the case is concerned, you know how ups and downs were there. Right from Aryan Khan being detained along with his colleagues, as well as at the same time, the official Sameer Wankhede, who has at the end needs to be shifted from the Mumbai. This all ups and downs had happened right from his detention. Then Aryan Khan was arrested. Then simultaneously we saw how Prabhakar Sahel, who was an independent witness, who clicked the photograph with Aryan Khan, and which went viral. So because of that photograph, the NCP was caught into question. And how can an independent witness caught hold of an accused and at the same time click a selfie in the custody of NCB brought a big question on the NCB. And then after that, Prabhakar Sahel, another independent witness, and let me remind you, Times Network, Mirror Now, were the first one to interview Prabhakar Sahel, who clearly came out with many claims, and he submitted the affidavit on the same line, mentioning that there was some sort of corruption going on in the NCB and there was demand for release of Mr. Aryan Khan being made by the NCB official, and there were several other claims which were pointing fingers at the NCB. So this was a very big interview by Times Network itself. Mirror Now has exposed that, and after which the central agency was put into action, and definitely all the cases which were handled by Sameer Wankhede were transferred to an SIT. So definitely two important probes were ordered. One, the Aryan Khan entire case was then shifted to the SIT, which was formed by the NCB, and at the same time, all the cases which were handled by Sameer Wankhede was again shifted to the SIT. One thing. Second important, a vigilance inquiry by a central officer was ordered into the entire Cordelia cruise matter. And we also broke that inquiry report, which clearly shown that there were several lapses when it comes to the investigation process. Because the first and foremost, the entire sequence was not videographed, and at the same time, the signatures of the independent witnesses which were taken on the blank papers which were agreed upon by the witnesses while giving the statement, and there were many other lapses at front when it comes to investigation process by the NCB. So these were all things which were coming out, and at the same time we also heard last time when NCB couldn't file the charge sheet in the given amount of time of 180 days and they asked for an extension, and at that time they asked for a 90 days extension, though they were given 60 days extension.
Abhishek,
20 accused were there.
Abhishek, Abhishek, stay with us. We'll come back to you. Let's first listen into what the conversation that my colleague Priyank had with Sameer Wankhere, who was the initial, the top guy who was looking at this investigation. He was the NCB zonal director for Mumbai, and he was, of course, later removed from that position. Let's listen into what Sameer Wankhere had to say to my colleague Priyank as a reaction to this charge sheet.
गुड आफ्टरनून सर, प्रियांक बोल रहा हूँ टाइम्स से।
कौन प्रियंक? कहाँ
सर टाइम्स नाउ से प्रियांक।
हाँ बोलो प्रियंक।
सर दिस इज अपडेट, द एनसीबी हैज गिवन क्लीन चिट टू आर्यन खान and you
that is between the NCB and the accused. What? I am no more in NCB.
But sir,
काफी दिन हो गए मुझे छोड़ के NCB.
But you arrested him and the probe was initially done by you.
नहीं मैं कहाँ?
जी सर।
क्या कमेंट अभी 5 महीने के बाद तुम मुझे पूछ रहे हो यार?
नहीं।
Right, so that is a very small, short conversation that my colleague Priyank had with Sameer Wankhere. Sameer Wankhere clearly, as we said, had in fact been removed from the position of being the NCB zonal director for Mumbai, and he's of course saying that this matter is between NCB, is with the NCB now, which he's no longer a part of, so he does not want to comment on it. It's been 5 months or little over 5 months or so since he has in fact moved out of the Narcotics Control Bureau, and at the moment, of course, he's saying he doesn't want to comment on it. But there had been a lot of questions, Abhishek, being raised around Sameer Wankhere also at that point in time. He had, of course, defended that investigation at that point. You know, he was the one who used to talk to the reporters as well, giving information about the drugs bust, then the arrests, then, of course, the following days of the investigation. Initially, he was very involved. Of course, later on, when questions were raised, especially after the allegations by late Prabhakar Sail. So those were also certain aspects in which then Sameer Wankhere came under the shadow of the NCB itself. Right. Abhishek, if you can hear me, we were asking about Sameer Wankhere. You know, he has played a very pivotal role right in the beginning of this particular case and the investigation. It was his team which led the probe into the drugs bust case, this Mumbai cruise drugs bust case. But later on, it kind of became a problematic situation for him because several questions were raised on him and his team as well.
Yes, definitely, you know, right from the start, as I pointed out, when that selfie with Gosavi clicking a selfie. Gosavi is also one of the important witness in this case who clicked a selfie in the custody of NCB, and he is an independent witness. It was said by the NCP that that selfie gone viral, and from that point of time questions were raised against Mr. Wankhere as well as the entire probing team, that what process has they followed, because when there is a particular process, and as far as the vigilance team report
right, Abhishek,
that was
hold
filed
on,
in
please.
the center,
I'm so sorry to interrupt you once
NCB,
again. So sorry to interrupt you once again, but I'm joined over the phone line by Ms. Priyanka Chaturvedi of the Sena. Priyanka, thank you so much for joining us. You know, what's your first reaction to this clean chit which has been given by the NCB to Aryan Khan now?
It is a vindication of truth, and that truth, besides everything, all the lies that were spread have actually come undone. It has proved that Aryan Khan was innocent. And what is most important, you all made the family try to humiliate the family. Imagine the parents of a young man having to go through this on the basis of lies, or the basis of one man who wanted to be the modern day Singham, and misusing the position that he had in the Narcotics Bureau, an entire machinery put into place to try and demonize the Hindi cinema, trying to demonize the city of Mumbai, try and demonize the Maharashtra government. All of that today shows and has been emphatically proved by that NCB letter that this was nothing but a conspiracy from the center using its central agencies to try and create a problem in Maharashtra and try and derail the economy of Maharashtra.
Ma'am, please stay with us. I'm also joined by NCP leader Majid Memon on this as well. Sir, as Priyanka Chaturvedi there was pointing out that, this of course brings into question, a lot of questions rather is being raised on the initial NCB team which was looking into this case. This is obviously a second team of NCB which has submitted the charge sheet, which took over the probe from the initial team. But, are there strong questions now which are being raised on the NCB and its functioning? Your leaders, of course, have raised it earlier as well. But now, considering this clean chit which has come through in this charge sheet for Aryan Khan, who spent almost a month in jail in this drugs bust case, and now NCB is saying there's not enough evidence. Why was this person in the jail for a month to begin with? These are questions being raised. So does it raise searing questions into the functioning of the NCB once again?
Now, you would give me a couple of minutes to explain the law, practical. Forget politics, which is aside. You see, whether it is NCB, whether it is NIA, whether it is ED, whether it is CBI, all agencies which have been given powers to arrest a citizen and take away personal liberty of a citizen according to procedure established by law. Now, please look at Supreme Court's verdicts on the question of arrest. 1994, way back, almost more than 2 decades now, the Supreme Court had said that to have the power to arrest is one thing and to exercise that power is another. Now, only because these officers are equipped with enough power to arrest a citizen without warrant, they should not resort to encroaching personal liberty of a respectable citizen without a just cause. Now, in the instant case, today NCB says, for want of sufficient evidence, we have discharged him. The question that arises is, you have not done any favor to the accused by discharging him for want of evidence today. It is, in my humble view, it does not meet the aims of justice fully. You have to justify that if there is no evidence today, was there any evidence on the date of arrest? Has it evaporated? Was there enough evidence to justify your act for encroaching on his personal liberty? This young boy had to spend 26 days in lockup. His father had to suffer a lot of embarrassment, a celebrity world over, and there was so much noise throughout. Why did you do that? You must explain that at the time of arrest, we have to justify the bona fide of our act of arresting this young man. It is only then that the aims of justice should be met. And if it is not a bona fide act on that day, you have to pay for it. I think there are instances where the police officers who have wrongly exercised their power to arrest have been duly penalized. And therefore, it would be the duty of the court to find out as to whether the arrest was bona fide or bona fide. Now, today, when you come to the court and say that there is no evidence against this man, so we are discharging him, what was the evidence on the day when you encroached upon his personal liberty? Now, this is a question to be raised in a civil society governed by rule of law. And I believe that should happen in the instant case also.
That's right, Mr. Memon. Basically, you are saying now there needs to be it's the NCB officers themselves who should be put on the dock in a way that questions, in fact, should be raised now. There should be an investigation now done as to the intentions behind this particular investigation, the initial investigation being carried out by the first team of NCB.
Right. Well, it is maybe that the officer may be in a position to justify. He may have explanation that, well, we have arrested him for the following reason, that he was found there. And therefore, we were justified and our arrest was a bona fide action. We had no malice against him. He has to only point out these aspects of the matter so that the aims of justice are fully met.
Joining us on this and, giving us your point of view on this. Let me go back to my colleague Abhishek now. Abhishek, these are, of course, information which is trickling in at this point in time. I'm sure at 3 o'clock, I believe the DG NCB is going to brief the media and is probably going to give out more details about what exactly does the charge sheet contain. At the moment, we know key takeaways, clean chit to Aryan Khan. NCB has said in that charge sheet there's not enough evidence against him. What about the others who had in fact been arrested? Aryan Khan's friends as well. In fact, hold on to that thought, Abhishek. We'll come back to you. I'm joined on the phone line by Mr. Ujjwal Nikam, senior lawyer. Mr. Nikam, my question is that, Mr. Majid Memon also, we were speaking to him a short while back. He said that there are procedures in law which can be looked at this point in time as to, the investigative officers who were involved in this particular case. Whether questions now need to be asked of them, because after so many months, like 5-6 months down the line now, NCB in such a high profile case has turned up in court saying we don't have enough evidence. What should be the next logical step now? Do you think, of course, the investigative team initially had been under the scanner to begin with, but right now, what should be the next logical step, Mr. Nikam?
There are basically two things. The first thing is that whether there was a prima facie evidence against the accused and whether there was a sufficient evidence to connect the accused with the crime. These are the two different factors. Now, NCB initially had arrested Aryan Khan on the basis of some prima facie evidence. Now, the committee who was investigating independently found that there was no evidence and therefore say that we cannot be prosecuted. Now, there is also procedure. By saying by that committee that there is no evidence, it won't help because the charge sheet will be filed and only the right to withdraw the prosecution that lies with the public prosecutor. So the public prosecutor has to make an application in the court saying that we don't have case against him. By saying that by the particular committee of NCB that he has a clean sheet or there is no evidence, that won't mean that he will be automatically discharged. There is a procedure. It may also happen that the court may found some evidence and the court won't agree with it. Now it is the court's prerogative whether to discharge the accused or not to discharge the accused. It is not the prerogative of the committee of the NCB.
Right. Mr. Memon, if I can go back to you. You heard Mr. Ujjwal Nikam there. Do you agree with the points that he was raising in terms of the procedures which need to be followed now?
No, I'm sorry, I did not hear Ujjwal Nikam. I was on the other channel for another 1 minute. In any case, let me tell you that I am not blaming the NCB officers for failure of discharging the duty. What I am saying is that they must explain to the people who are also very much interested in these developments. You say that you arrested a man for serious charges, non-bailable offences and widely publicized crime, and then one day, today you come and say that there is no evidence against him. The question that arises is, did the evidence evaporate? Did somebody erase the evidence? Or you must find out that, well, as far as the presence of evidence for the purposes of justifying arrest or encroachment on personal liberty did exist on the day when we arrested him. And subsequently, on further development of investigation, we found that it was inadequate to charge him. And therefore, we have discharged him. This should be the case. And if this be the case, everything is in order and everything is just. But then simply arresting a young boy, keeping him in lockup for 26 days, and today saying that no evidence against him, so we are discharging him, makes people worry, makes people concerned about it. That what about personal liberty guaranteed under Article 21 to every citizen of India, much less to a celebrity's son? This is an illustrious case where NCB must come clean and explain to the people of this country that, well, we arrested him because we found him in the party and that was enough for us to bona fide believe that he may have been involved in a crime, and therefore we had to keep him in custody for some time. But keeping him in lockup for 26 long days, you see, is completely shattering his psychology, his physical, his mental, his reputational, impact that he has to face. For what? Only because somebody made some mistake, or only because somebody acted without total care. Therefore, it is the duty of NCB to explain to everybody, including to Aryan and his father.
Right, Mr. Memon. Sorry, yes, please hold on to your thought there. Let me take that question to Mr. Nikam. Mr. Ujjwal Nikam, you heard Mr. Majid Memon over there essentially saying that it's not just about the fact that this is a celebrity's son that we are talking about. It's not just about the fact that this is a high-profile case, but this is a person who spent 26 days in jail. And now the NCB is saying not sufficient evidence. Is this how a premier central agency in the country should be functioning?
I gave a patience hearing to the contention raised by my friend Mr. Memon. But let me tell you, Mr. Memon, that it is the decision of a particular committee of the Narcotic Bureau that there is no sufficient evidence to proceed with further. Now, by saying so, it doesn't mean that the court will discharge him automatically, because now the matter is in the court. It is for the court to apply its mind, and the court has to arrive
I'm
at a
really
conclusion.
sorry, Mr. Ujjwal Nikam. I'm really sorry. I'll have to interrupt you there. Please hold on